You have quite a following here. What goes through your mind when you know you're going to be paying a visit to Music Hall again here in Cincinnati?
Well, I mean, I've been here so many times and I've had such wonderful times that it's just kind of like coming home. I mean, there are certain places in the world where you feel totally comfortable, you have friends, and of course, not to emphasize enough the quality of the orchestra and the audience here in Cincinnati. It's always a real pleasure.
Well, you're doing a piano concerto with the composer conducting. Could you talk a little bit about Ressurection and Maestro Penderecki and your relationship with him? I read that at his behest that you performed this in Warsaw in 2002. But what's it like to work with a composer like Penderecki?
Well, first of all, I mean, he's a charming person, so it's always a delight. But what's amazing is that you're with the person who has conceived this amazing piece of music, and it is an amazing piece of music. It's reflecting a whole change of circumstance after 9/11 and our own reaction to what the new kind of world. I mean, it's an overused word. The kind of new world order is, and what does that mean? And I think the piece has got some amazing resonances for us all. It's a great feeling of universality and the fact that we are all human beings and what counts as humankind. And this comes out, and it comes out in him. He's a very human person, a very warm person. So over the years, we've done it so many times and in so many different places and different types of orchestras that it grows each time we do it and changes, and we change little things. And he asks me for suggestions. I'm always very flattered when he says, "What do you think of the piano writing here?" And then other things he may have second thoughts on, and we change. I mean, even just today, we made some minor changes to the piano part and to other things. We added a couple of bars, we took a couple of bars away, and so it's a work in progress, and I think that's exciting. It's living. It's a real organism.
And he wrote, I read in some of the comments, that he refrained from piano concertos for many years because he was afraid. Do you sense any of that fear in this concerto?
No, but it's not a piano concerto in the classic sense of the soloist vis-a-vis the orchestra, the accompaniment in inverted commas. It's very much, it's a very organic piece where the piano is a part of the orchestra in a way, and so it all, rather like how Brahms would have done it in his concertos, where the piano is an integral part of the orchestra and it's not just soloist and conductor, soloist and orchestra. So it has a concertante role. It comments on what happens in the orchestra, but then there are a lot of little cadenzas which happen, and this happens a lot in Penderecki's music, where in his chamber music, for instance, in the sextet, there's wonderful sudden bursts of energy and dazzling virtuosity, and then it goes back to something very, very kind of sublime. And so this happens a lot in this piece too.
So where has it come between the time when it was composed in 2001, 2002, and now in 2007?
It was much shorter in 2001. It's much longer now. Now, what he has done is very clever and very, very rewarding. What actually he has done is he has beefed up the ending to reflect, in a sense, and there's some of the same music from earlier on the piece but in a different key, but he's actually reflecting almost after the huge kind of affirmation with this huge chorale, and he has tapes of pealing bells from Poland in the actual score, and three trumpets stand in the middle of the audience to play this amazing chorale. It's affirming, it's like one of those Bach chorales, Ein Feste Burg or something. It's really very, very heavy and very strong stuff. But then after that, this new material, or the reworked old material, kind of counterbalances that and has a kind of different atmosphere, and it makes a kind of a beautiful mirror image of what went on earlier on. And then what he's done at the very end of the piece, which is totally new, he's put in a lot of new virtuoso writing for all the members of the orchestra and the piano, which propels the piece towards the end in a very exciting way.
Now, he had begun to compose this before the events of September 11th, and he comments about how the tone changed after as he concluded the composition. Is that contrast obvious, and has it been changed much with this world premiere revision for 2007?
Well, what he did there have been 3 or 4 versions, I would say. Most of them kind of minor changes, and then this big change for the Cincinnati premiere. Some of the minor things have been where he's added little piano cadenzas, he's elongated little sections with the orchestra and piano, and that was done immediately in 2002 for the European premiere that I did in Warsaw. Then he had also some other little things, and then it sort of stayed the same until now. And now it's been a huge kind of, there's extra music, as I say, on the end, and a few things in the middle, and corrections as well. As you know, inevitably any new piece of music, there are going to be little mistakes accidentally happening, and so we're fixing those too.
Speaking of changes, you've been coming, as Mark said, coming here so long and playing with this orchestra for so long, under Jesus, and now the orchestra has been under Pavo since 2001. Have you seen any sort of evolution in this orchestra, or any kind of changes since you've been coming time after time after time?
I mean, I've worked with Pavo in many other orchestras, but I haven't worked with Pavo here, so it's difficult to say. I feel that the orchestra has, in a sense, become even more virtuoso. Under Jesus, it was always had this beautiful kind of European warmth and grandeur about it, especially with the strings, but also the wind solos. But now I think it's really it's got a kind of new glassy shininess to it. It's the wrong word to use, but it's a little bit more virtuoso, I would say. He must have been putting them through their paces with some difficult repertoire. But I mean, it's amazing, a piece like the Penderecki, which is not easy for the best orchestra in the world, any orchestra in the world. They immediately had it, but for a few things with complications with reading the score, some questions people would ask from the wind or the strings, it was very much almost there immediately, and that is very rare, I can tell you, in modern music or in any music, and so it was very impressive.
So you mentioned that Penderecki has made a number of revisions on this. From your personal relationship with him, do you feel he'll ever stop revising Ressurection, this piano concerto? Will he, do you think this 2007 version will be the 2007 version, or do you believe that he might continue to have it evolve?
That's a very good question. I think he seems pretty happy now with what this, the ending. It was the ending that had worried him before. I think he's done something very special. Having said that, he wrote two movements of a string serenade, which my orchestra Camerata Ireland plays a lot. Larghetto and Passacaglia is the second movement. Larghetto is the third movement. There's no first and fourth movement. So I keep saying, when are you going to do the first and fourth movements, please? Because we want to do the whole thing. So I think he's working on that right now. So, I mean, he's that sort of guy. Things change. He thinks about stuff all the time and makes revisions. And so who knows?
Well, as a performer, what's it like to come out of the romantic repertoire and, big Tchaikovsky or Mendelssohn concertos, and come to a piece like Penderecki? As a performer, how do you feel about bouncing between the various, forms of the concerto? Is it something you look forward to? Is it something that helps you exercise your range, or is it something you dread?
I'm not one of those pianists who play two concertos for the whole season. I mean, there are people like that, and I just don't know how they do it. I like variety in my life, and last week I was playing, what was I playing? Where was I last week? I was playing Beethoven Third Piano Concerto in Dublin with my orchestra. Next week I'm playing the Mozart Concerto and Beethoven Triple Concerto in London with my orchestra. I'm doing Penderecki this week, and then I'm going to do Bartók in the new year and Ravel, and it's. I don't do a punishingly big number of concertos per year, but I like to have a variety, and for me it's not a problem. I play what I feel I play well, and stick to that, and it could be from any era. But as regards picking two concertos and flogging them to death the whole season, I'm not that sort of pianist.